Welcome to another episode of this show, which I forget the name of. It's funny, every episode I'll just say it with a certain lack of like, not certainty. Being like, what is this? Welcome to Graceland, my favorite Elvis obsessed personality show. Hey, so I was when I started the podcast, I was rapping "Humble" to myself as I want to do. That song is a banger because it manages. It's weird because it doesn't feel. I remember the first time I heard "Humble." Bitch, be humble. A bitch. I was hanging out with someone and she was explaining that she's a nanny and that one of the kids she or like an au pair, and one of the kids she works with is getting to an age where she now curses, but she says bitch, but she doesn't say bitch. She says bitch, like enunciating every bitch, and you know it. It's not like bitch. It's like bitch, bitch. Just funny to think about. So a young SoCal teenager just saying, "She's a bitch." It like you could just hear the teeth crackling off each other. It's like you're listening to like a 4-track recording. Okay, that only made sense to me. Anyways, I'm here. Yeah, be humble. I just sit down. I love that song. I love that song. But it's amazing because I did not expect that song to be so good to dance to. It's super fun to dance to. You wouldn't expect that. Not to me. Not to me. I just, I assume that unless it's like a pop song, it's not easily danced to. But that song is I remember syrup loud. Ah, so good. I'm bitch. And the video is also really fun. In general, he makes fun videos. Actually, the best video of Kendrick Lamar might be the one on the Black Panther soundtrack. That one is just the one with like Future. It's such a cool video. I'm like such a someone pointed out that like I am such a teenager. Like I'm like, oh, did you watch that video? Did you watch that music video? I've seen it. Yeah, it's so much fun. Did you watch that video? It's awesome. Ignore my pimples. And but I do. I like music videos. There was a point in my life where I was like, I will be a music video director. That's what I'm gonna do. There's still time. There's still time. But it's sort of unlikely. I don't necessarily know. But I would write. I would like songs I'd listen to. Like I listen to them on repeat, which is like a habit I picked up from my brother. Shout out to Samuel Tarley. And DJ Samuel Tarley. Um, but yeah, and I would like write like scripts, but they wouldn't like. I would always be like, this isn't the last 4 minutes. This is like a cool visual, but it's not like a video. Um, I did see a video that was a little. I mean, that was honestly way too much for me. I saw this. Idris Elba just released. He's on this rap song with this rap track, this Spike Lee joint, and he's on it, and it's called Bousty. And I found out about it because it was saw on on Instagram's Idris Elba page, on Idris Elba's Instagram page. Can you tell that it's 9:16 in the evening / 8:15 with daylight savings time, and I didn't get enough sleep? Can you tell that? Can you tell that by how I'm rearranging words? Splitting infinitives and whatnot. I've been spending more time on Instagram. It has been fun. Mostly on Instagram to watch these like really fun videos of my nieces and nephews just continuing to challenge and run around each other. I saw this ninja fight. I saw a fight between two animals, and one niece was playing one animal, one niece was playing the other, but the fight just consisted of them running in a circle with one another, and and I was just like, this is too much. It made me laugh so much. I got a card from my niece where basically said like, this gift is for you. I love you, and I friggin' teared up. I friggin' teared up. Who are these people? The only person up until now who can make me tear up is J.J. Abrams, and that's only for 5 minutes at the end of Super 8. Who are these people? Why? Why are they why are they manipulating my emotions this way? Is she trying to sell me yogurt or like a better relationship with my truck or something? I don't know. But what's going on? Why am I crying? Okay? Stop. Children, stop. Stop inducing emotions in me. I am a robot. I am a robot. As long as I keep saying that's my affirmation every morning. I am a robot. I am a robot. And I'm saying it like the Mr. Roboto way they sang that. Oh man. Mr. Roboto, God, that it's interesting because like a lot of stuff is like rape. Here's what I'll say. Here's just an observation that I'll make, and I don't mean anything by it. It's just I just think it's an interesting point that like a lot of stuff is considered like racist, but like everyone seems to like accept that Japan is so creative and strange that like if you do something about Japan and it's weird, like the song Mr. Roboto, like people are just like, yeah, no, that's not racist. That's just fairness and accuracy in reporting. Okay, they should win a Pulitzer for that song. Like that's just because I don't know. We just think of Japan as this strange place. So you pretty much can do like anything, and no one's gonna be like, is that in bad taste? It's like no. That's in perfect taste. If you put like Chris Tucker in like a big one of those like big hats that people wear when they're like working on like there's like footage of people working in like a rice paddy in like a film, like that people will get upset because that's like China and in Indochine as someone pointed out to me is what it was also called. But no one will if you depict Japan as weird, everyone's like, yeah, that's just like, can we move on? What's the revelation here? I'm offended that this isn't interesting. I don't know. So don't worry, got to Mr. Robot. Like it's funny. It's like, oh yeah. That's exactly how I saw it in my mind's eye. I want to go to Japan at some point. It seems like a really interesting place. God, it seems interesting. I also read half a dissertation about what it's like to be a black person in Japan. But then I broke up with the author and didn't read the rest of it. It was interesting, but I just was like, nah, I'm just gonna go back to yelling at Twitter or something like that. I want to use my time properly. I want to use my time correctly. So yeah. Yes, Idris Elba. The song is called Bausti. It's not. I mean, I'm not like a dance hall person, but like I like some dance hall songs. This song's a little bit too much. The video is a little bit. It's got a lot of MSG in it. Let's just put it that way. And no, that's not offensive. Don't call me out. And yeah, but Idris Elba has lines on it, and it's just funny to see him like rapping. But you can also hear like that with that voice, like. But it's true. He used to be a DJ, right? Aside from being the world's most eligible bachelor, I think if aliens came to this planet and threatened it, they would be like, "We will not invade Earth on one condition: you will allow us to mate with Idris Elba." And Idris would be like, sure," in his British accent, which I did not do. Sexiest man alive. I recently finished the first season of Luther. I know, probably about 8 years behind. But it's gonna take me some time. I'm gonna watch a season every year because I want to recreate the experience. I don't want to binge this. I want to recreate the experience of digesting this over time. And I watched Luther, which was honestly like wonderful. I realized I really do like watching shows with black male protagonists. Like I just do. I'm real selfish like that. But yeah, no, I think but also it's just like cool to like I grew up with a lot of like people in the diaspora, And I talked about this in the Skirball episode. Skr, that like the diaspora should be cherished. And so this is part of my way of Luther and then watching Black Panther a couple times. Just trying to get that Netflix count up. But yeah, I finished the first season of Luther, and it was good, but it's just really funny. Like there is something where like a lot of the show, a lot of the dramatic moments are just like Idris Elba is acting on Luther. I mean, he is good on the show. I'm not trying to say he's not, but I am saying that like most of his performance on the show consists of him going, "No, Ian, how could you? I will kill you." Like that's pretty much like what like a lot of, at least the first season. I don't know about the second season. Maybe in the second season he's like, yes, 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 yes. I don't even want to imagine what's happening in the second season for him to be saying that. But in the first season, he's just like, no, 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 Ian, no, I will kill you. Or he's like, when his wife is trying to leave him, no, no, no. Also, the woman who plays his wife is like, oh my god, she's she's like really, really pretty. I'm like getting to like a middle schooler. She's like really, really pretty. She's like really cute. I got a little bit of a crush on her. But my pimples keep me from asking her out. But I'm working up to it. But yeah, man. Oh man, like yeah, it's just funny. The show and yeah, I don't know. Like I'm just trying to say, you know, that yeah, she's like, oh yeah, oh she is Ilaria Sand. Yeah, exactly. She's just like super attractive, Indira Varma. Oh my god. And yeah, but basically like, she's trying to break up with him because he's just the friggin' 5-car pileup of a person, both physically and emotionally, and also visually in the sense that you can't keep your eyes off of him. Idris Elba, so amazing, and yeah, just but the entire first season just going no, 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 no. They just they just make him look like, how would I describe Idris Elba on Luther? He's like a wall of granite as like a person. Like he lives in like a flop house, and clearly like he's not collecting a pension. He's taking all of his future pension earnings. He's taken loans against them, and he's combined that with his salary to purchase his wardrobe because his wardrobe is frigging lights out on that show. His wardrobe is as lights out as his wife. It is. I can't determine which was more beautiful, his clothing or that actress. But I could watch Idris Elba. I think I could. I don't even need a plot for Luther. I could just watch Idris Elba just have meltdowns like all day, just for hours, just him walking around, just getting upset about stuff. Like, this egg and salad is a bit dry. No, I will not eat it. No, you shouldn't have ordered it for me. Like he goes to just Luther, just DCI Luther. Maybe they do like a little like prequel type thing where like after he stepped on the guy's hands and the guy fell, like he comes along and says, I hope Space Mountain would have been scary. Like they would send him to Orlando, and he's like, no, no. I hope Space Mountain would have been scarier. I basically, after watching the first season, I just would walk around my apartment just be like, no, 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 no. And to me, he must be in excellent physical condition because at this moment, the first time I did it for about 5 minutes of just emoting at like the level that DCI John Luther does. I love saying DCI John Luther. But like I almost gave myself a stroke. That's how intense it felt. And yeah, like the first time earlier this week was the first time I did the DCI Luther, and I had to take a nap. Even now, I'm yawning. Why am I yawning? Because I'm not getting enough oxygen to my brain after emoting that hard. It just, I don't know. Maybe he's absorbing oxygen through his pores to be able to do that. But it's intense. I had to take a nap. And also, seeing London, it made me miss London. I was like, London's so friggin' cool. I want to go back. I want to go back in time. Or into the future, where London also exists. He basically, it's really funny. Like Luther, Idris Elba basically he just like acts. How does he act? He acts like Michael Caine talks. You know what I mean? Like very quietly, then louder, then very loud, and then quiet, quiet, quiet. I'm trying to channel that scene in The Trippers. Like Michael Caine talks like this. He talks very quiet, quiet, and then he gets louder, and then he gets louder, and then he gets quiet again to emphasize emotion. Sometimes I do wonder whether I should just drop into a British accent, just period. Just like it would be fun, but also would help people understand that I'm maybe part of the diaspora. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I'm not running from anything. I'm just dispersed. Okay, I got a big variance, if you know what I mean. A big standard deviation. Spending too much time studying statistics lately. But yeah, I basically after that I just decided I have no hope in acting because at the Idris Elba pace of emoting, it would take me 2 years to shoot a movie. I think it would be so hard. I would just be like scene, and then I would just have to go. I'd have to go on vacation from shooting a movie, and then come back. They just. I hope it's a small role, because the entire crew's just gonna have to wait it out in the desert while I friggin' unwind a little bit. God, it's so hard. It takes such concentration. It takes such concentration to like do something like to like theoretically. It's weird that it takes such concentration to like just do something that like we all should be able to do, which is just be normal, just act like a normal person. But it's so hard, you know. Like I saw it, man. I recently saw episodes of Highlander because I had a little bit of like a, you know how like people get cravings for like ice cream, or like cravings for like I don't know like yeah like ice cream or certain kinds of foods. I get cravings for TV shows like Highlander. And so I watched about 5 minutes of a Highlander episode. And I was like, oh, you know, they shoot 22 of these 1 hour episodes, and they did it on a shoestring budget, and it shows because the acting is bad. Like that's the kind of acting I could do. That's the kind of acting where they could shoot that like a soap opera, a soup opera, a soup opera, and yeah, it would take me you know, like just where you can see that like the acting, they're literally just reciting the lines, and it's as cheesy as possible. It's also really funny because like Highlander, I never really realized because like I was in like I was into Highlander because it like was about like history and like had these like science fiction elements that I like. Like I never really like thought about like Highlander as like a macho show, but like looking back, like clearly, I mean, right, like it's him doing kung fu. It's like it's Walker Immortal Ranger is actually what Highlander is, and it's just such a macho like and you know the macho-ness definitely goes well with just bad acting. You know what I mean? It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was listening to this audiobook and it was talking about the idea that like it's like beautiful that like Arnold Schwarzenegger like right like that he had so much persistence and confidence and just didn't not even confidence he just didn't give up. He just worked as hard as he freaking possibly could at all times. And I was just like, but think about how bad of an actor he is. Like it's really funny because like he's great. Like I love Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, but like the Rock freaking blows Arnold Schwarzenegger out of the fucking water in terms of acting ability. Like if you look back, it's all swag. And so it is on Highlander. Man, the acting is bad. See, yeah, it's like that. It'd take 2 years to shoot a movie. At that pace, you could shoot a movie in a day. Oh, Highlander. I am immortal. Da, 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 da. great contribution, Queen. I haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody. Wasn't planning on it. I just, I got to see movies before everyone gets all like whipped up about it. Okay. But yeah, no, I do, but I love Idris Elba's no, no, no. I used to date, I once dated an Australian girl, and it was always like, it's not, I'd always joke, it's like, it's not no, no, it's no, 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 no. It's just, I find that like it sounds like Chewbacca at a certain point. Like I don't know when it starts becoming a word and it starts becoming Chewbacca saying his name in his native language. Why did Chewbacca never learn to speak English? Okay, what is he, some kind of friggin' bigot or something? What's his deal? He actually just, that'd be funny. He like Chewbacca can. It turns out like Chewbacca can speak English, but he just like hates it. Like he thinks it's stupid. Like he thinks it's like a dumb. He thinks it's like a dumb language. He's like, I don't want to speak that shit. For God's sakes, I'm Wookieean. I speak Wookiee, okay, baby. Okay, baby. And he also, when he does speak English, Chewbacca just sounds like Sammy Davis Jr. Okay, baby, chill. Baka's in the house, okay? Chill, girl. Chill. Yo, Han Solo, man, back the fuck up. Yo, Han, you went to the ice planet, and you don't bring me no keepsakes back? What? Yo, Han, what you doing? You got this girl here? Are we no longer a team? What's going on between us? We need to have a meeting. A meeting. Baby. Baby. Chewbacca just sounds like a really, he sounds like a young hustler. Young hustler. Okay, what else? I finished Counterpart. As you can tell, I had a very productive week. I watched all of Counterpart. That show is freaking amazing. I'm sad it was canceled. It's clearly not coming back because it looks like one of the dudes who was on the show is basically jumped to like an ABC show. God, I wish Counterpart would come back because to me, like some of those. Look, I mean, the last episode of the series like had some moments that felt like a little too cheesy and forced, like for plot purposes, but there were other things in the show that, like, by the end of towards the end of the second season, like just some of the lines of dialogue, the way they like wove in. The show is about like, it's sort of a metaphor for the Cold War, but it's also like a metaphor for like challenges of like intimacy and connection and personality. I would just suggest watching. It's hard for me to describe. Unlike Luther, no, Zoe, no. It's a little bit more complicated than that. That's not a knock on Luther. I'm just saying, J.K. Simmons would go no, dickhead. I don't know. That's Howard. That's Howard Prime, or Howard. Howard Prime. Anyways, the show was awesome. You gotta watch it. I gotta put it up there with. I gotta put it up there in terms of like what it meant to me. Maybe like some of like Deadwood or friggin' what's the name of that show? What's the name of that Joss Whedon show? Firefly. What a great movie. Serenity. Yeah, Firefly. It was just awesome. So, oh man, there's a Firefly comic books. Your boys gotta read those. I have to read those. That is ridiculous. To think, oh man, I love. Ooh. Man. Okay. Well, anyways, okay. Enough reverie about Firefly. But yeah. Counterpart was great. Some of those lines of dialogue, some of those like thoughts about like intimacy and getting to know people, and just all the stuff was just friggin'. I mean, honestly, I was just like, this is the shit. this show's awesome, but I get it had to get canceled. I could see how a lot of people weren't watching it, and the budget must have been friggin' bananas. But I dug it. I dug it. I have to say. I dug it. I dug it. I have to say. Can you tell that I don't have any ideas? I really should record these in the early afternoon. Note to self. What else? Oh, I was talking about this with like, and actually, yeah, I just think this isn't even funny. Not that the rest of this podcast has been, but I went like, I was talking with like, I, I think about like, I had this like conversation where I was just like, we're talking about Jamal Khashoggi, right? Which like everyone was upset about 3 months ago, and no one like Khashoggi. Who? I don't know. Now I'm watching that R. Kelly documentary. I'm not angry. R. Kelly really just like needs like the Saudi prince to like just be. He needs Mohammed bin Salman to like behead another person, or excuse me, dismember another person, and then he'd be like, I can get back to music. But Jamal Khashoggi, whatever, Khashoggi. Now that sounds like an anime character to me. Jamal Khashoggi is the first Jamal that America has ever cared about. I just want to say that for the record. Wow, they give a shit about a guy named Jamal? Man, what instance of police violence happened? Officer, was there an officer involved shooting? Nah. It was sort of an abroad thing, as Idris Elba would say in Bausti. But yeah, I was trying to explain, like, I was like, I don't really think, and I tried saying this to people, and it's a little bit of a downer, but basically, like, it is true that, like, I think that there is this weird tension between, like, wanting to do the right thing and the reality we have to hit up against, where it's like, oh, there's, like, business interests and other stakes involved, and we just will sort of let this other stuff just sort of slide, because, you know, I mean, you know, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? You gonna not sell weapons? What's going on here? But yeah, like, there really is, like, I must put it as, like, it's the difference between, it's like power and discourse is what I've said. Like, power versus discourse is, and realizing there are limits to discourse. Like, if you think about it, like, this discourse thing, man, it's fairly new. You know, in the sense of, like, people being outraged versus, like, business interests, economic interests that we want to serve, and so we want to sort of look the other way. Like, discourse is as old as democracy, which is to say is very, very young. It's a very young concept. I mean, you know, discourse, I don't think, like, you see any discourse in Game of Thrones? I don't. I think that's what life was like for most of, you know, recorded history. And definitely beyond, before that, oh, hail to the yeah, just about power. But yeah, I mean, like, I'll give you this story, and this is sort of a fun story, slash very sad story. I took a semester off from college because I was interested in learning about international development, and I went to Zimbabwe, and I worked at a project that was funded by USAID. And what we did was provided technical assistance to the Zimbabwean legislature. That was our job duty. That's what we focused on doing. That's what we tried to excel at. And basically, like, Jamal, like, so, okay, one day, so we would go to parliamentary meetings, right? And one day I went to this parliamentary meeting, and it was of the military committee. You know, like the military, you know, like there's like a subcommittee on like military issues, right? And basically, as we were entering, the guy who I was working with, the economist who was a full-time staff member at the NGO, said, when you go in here, don't say a word, don't say a single word. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna ask why, but I just, you know, I was like, okay. But of course I was like, why? And I was like, oh, it's a military thing, right? And then I walked in, and this guy entered, and he just you know how you can like feel that like everyone's paying attention to a particular person, like they have everyone's attention and power. Like, he just had it. You could see, And I didn't say anything, and I was very silent. And he scanned the room, and he saw me, and he goes, "Oh, hey, what's your name?" And I said, "Oh, my name is Jack." And and he said, "Oh, in just the most intense, sort of scary ass voice, right? Just ooh, an American, And at this time, George Bush was president. He was like, George Bush, you from Texas, And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be really polite, but I can tell there's a kind of weird energy around this person. Later, I learned that he was the head. He was his previous employment before becoming an elected official by the will of the people in his district. He was the head of secret police. So this is the guy who makes people disappear, who tortures people, who scares and intimidates people. He is also currently president of Zimbabwe. He was actually the next. I mean, presumably this was a position he needed, so he could be next in the succession plans to succeed Robert Mugabe. And Mugabe actually tried to appoint his wife as president, and basically this guy initiated a coup using his contacts. Or excuse me, the military toppled Mugabe's abuse of power and then held fair elections that then got this guy elected. But anyways, this guy was not only a big cheese, he's both a physically big guy. I'd give him a run up against Idris, and just as dark, and he so and he was big, physically imposing, former head of the secret police. You could just feel that energy sort of roiling off of him. Even in the moment, I was like, there's something about this guy. There's something about this guy that I love, that I absolutely adore. I want to be this guy's best friend, mostly so that I don't end up in a black box that no one remembers. That's or either a black box and living in it, or just a pine box and I'm dead. But he just had that kind of energy around him. Anyways, so he humors me and asks me a few questions, and I say, oh, I'm just here, I'm smiling, just having fun. Hey, I'm here to learn about development. He's like, oh yeah, okay, we'll do that. But anyways, as the panel goes on. So this is like a committee meeting, and there's some representative from the military who comes to give a report to obviously the elected officials. And he's about to say something, and he looks nervous, and he keeps looking over at me. And then he looks back at like this Mr. Ha 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 guy, the Prince of Darkness guy. And then he looks back at me, and then he looks at the Prince of Darkness. And the Prince of Darkness says, what? And the Prince of Darkness looks at him and says, you can say what you need to say. And the guy explains that Zimbabwe just bought was in the process, like the military had just purchased something like 17 helicopters from a UK defense contractor. Some UK based company that makes military helicopters, and it was interesting because I thought about it afterwards, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because technically, politically, the UK and Zimbabwe are at odds. They hate each other, right? Like at that point in time, the land reclamation was happening. Tony Blair was insulting Mugabe and saying Mugabe was like a dictator and just a thief, and Mugabe was saying that that Tony Blair was just like a colonialist, imperialist piece of shit, basically. And they were just trading words and barbs with one another, right? And UK was pushing to condemn what Zimbabwe was doing, right? And Zimbabwe was pushing back, and yet while they're fighting politically, right? And British nationals are fleeing the country, South Africans are fleeing the country because of these land reclamations, and everyone's scared. Despite all of this stuff, like the UK, a UK defense contractor is still selling helicopters, and right, Tony Blair supports what does he support? He supports the MDC movement for the MDC, which was the opposition party to the ZANU PF, which is Robert Mugabe's party, and he supports like the movement for democratic change. That's what it was, the MDC, and yet the UK, Tony Blair's government, a UK defense contractor is selling helicopters to the Zimbabwean government. And for those helicopters to be sold, the UK government has to sign off, right? I mean, this is military technology. So for usually I mean, I don't know for a fact, but usually as a matter of national security, a government usually has to sign off on a defense contractor in its country selling weapons to outside to someone else, right? I mean, it just makes sense that you'd have to get that cleared. So that means that while Tony Blair is basically just insulting, and saying that Mugabe is like a dictator, and he's saying I support the movement for democratic change, his government is signing off on the sales of helicopters to that very government he's condemning. And those helicopters, which are military helicopters, who are they going to be used against? Who could they potentially be used to pacify? Well, the movement for democratic change, who Tony Blair supposedly supports. That's the complexity of a lot of these like situations where you have like discourse and we have politics and then we have like business. And I don't mean business to say like as an ugly word. I certainly am old enough that I don't really think that way anymore. But I will say it creates these weird kind of contradictions and tensions. And the question is, what really runs things? Is it discourse or is it business? Is it economic relationships? And I would say, probably economic relationships, right? I mean, you can hate each other all you want. These helicopters are still going. Oh boy, it's just interesting. I don't know. Just makes me see the world through a different lens. So, anyways, that's basically what I'm saying. It's just complicated with all of these issues. It's just complicated. So I don't know. This, I'm just saying, like economic, like these relationships are, and I think the Khashoggi thing sort of exposes that as well. Like, if you know that that they have these interests, and like, on some level, even the elected officials who are like, condemning it, right? Like there are Republicans, for example, national security Republicans who are like, we shouldn't sell the weapons. It's like maybe on some level they're only saying that because they know the vote will fail, right? Like so, in other words, like if you know something's wrong, but if you know something's wrong, but it won't be stopped, and you know that like you don't even have the votes to stop it, you may weigh in even more. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, maybe like a Lindsey Graham might actually even go even harder rhetorically in saying that the Jamal Khashoggi killing is wrong and we need to retaliate because he well knows that the Trump administration will not let that happen, right? So in some ways he can just take his stand without actually having to put anything at risk because he knows what's going to happen, and that's politics too, baby. Anyway, this is a little diversion into something else. I've been asked to go on a lot of hikes lately. It's been fun and interesting to want. Like I'm just thinking that like hikes really are they're like the solution in life. That's like what I mostly. I don't know. That's what I feel like is important. Just I don't know how to put it. Like that kind of stuff is oh yeah, hikes. Okay, I am wow, I'm having a senior moment. But just like my just everyone wants to. I actually it's really funny because I do go on a hike like every week now. Like every Sunday I go on a hike, and it's usually the same spot. It's to the observatory, so I can go see like science shit and run around and stuff. But it's just funny to go on a hike and for someone to be like, "Yo, man, I need a hike." Like I need a hike, bro. Like I get texts sometimes from friends being, "I need a hike so bad, dude. I need a hike." Like he's going through withdrawals. I'm like, what about a flight of stairs? Will that tide you over? And sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. I don't know what else to say. What else happened this week? It's been raining. I guess technically the rain's over, so now we'll just get cooked. I think that's all I sort of wanted to talk about this week. Oh, I did want to talk about this feeling I have. This is like a weird thought I have just about stuff, but like we're sort of in a. Oh, this is another conversation I had with somebody, was just this idea that like we're in an outrage culture, and I used to be critical of that. I was like, oh, outrage is stupid, and I was really judgmental of it. Now, actually, like I actually sort of get it. It's weird. The less I'm involved with it, and the less I read the news, I actually have more sympathy for it. But I look at it and I go, oh, I know. You know what I'm really frustrated about with outrage? It's not that outrage is bad or that outrage is stupid. It's just a question of like, outrage is like a form of power, but it's a form of power that usually doesn't know how to convert itself into other forms of power. Like I've been thinking about this, right? Like essentially, like you have things that are not political power or not legislation, and the question is, how do you, right? This is like a question for a political strategist, right, or a lobbyist. Like, how do you turn certain kinds of power into other kinds of power, right? Like, there's nothing that inherently would suggest that like money is directly convertible into political power, right? But like we have mechanisms to make that possible, right? Like you have lobbyists, you have um, fundraisers, strategists, like all these political people, right? You have an entire class of people who basically you pay them money and they convert the money you pay them into political access and exposure, right? So there's a whole the point is it's not easy to convert into political power. Like that's I think what people don't really like realize or appreciate. It's like it's very hard, or it's not hard to convert things like money into political power, but like you need someone who's a specialist, like a magician who can do it. Like I feel like when people are like angry on Twitter about anything, even about issues that I'm very sympathetic to, I'm always like, this feels. It used to frustrate me because I was like, this is a waste of time. But now I realize it's not a waste of time. It's just like it's like on Twitter, people are collecting a bunch of euros, right? But like they need to buy things. They need to buy a couch at IKEA in Burbank, and they have a bunch of euros, and IKEA is like, that's great that you have a bunch of euros. Like I'm really happy for you. I'm really happy for you. To quote Kanye talking to Taylor Swift, but like we need to get paid in Uncle Sam dollars. You know what I mean? Like we need greenbacks, and you're giving us euros, and we don't take that kind of money. And I feel like that's what outrage is like. That's what outrage people in the outrage business don't understand. And but I do have optimism about this because I was thinking like, well, like it might be that like just like all this internet-based outrage stuff is fairly new. So like people don't really know the rules yet. People don't necessarily know how to convert it into something else. It's almost like early Facebook, right? Like all these tech companies that were like doing these amazing things and getting all these users engaged, but there were all these questions about like how are you going to make money off of this? How are you going now you have a following. The question is how are you going to pivot and monetize this bitch? And right, like I think the same question is true with like Twitter. It's like I think actually I realize now I realize I'm not angry that people are outraged about stuff, and I don't necessarily even think it's a waste of energy. I just think it's that people don't know how to convert that outrage and those emotions into anything productive yet, and I think it will take time to figure that out. If you think about lobbyists coming out of the tradition of like courtiers, people of the court, convening with the king, like it. I'm speaking very abstractly, but what I'm trying to say is like usually it takes a lot of time to figure out how do you take this new form of power and convert it into something that's useful and productive and people get heard. And it's probably still going to take a lot of time. You know what I mean? We're what into the internet age, like the social media age. We're what 8 years in, maybe. I mean, Twitter. What's like started in 2008. I mean, it's like we're 11 years into Twitter. It's like it's not going to get figured out overnight. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of like wasted energy. But eventually at some point someone's going to figure out how to convert, I mean other than Trump, they're going to figure out how to convert like Twitter and social media presence into political power. And when they do that, I think the world potentially could change in some pretty profound and interesting and promising, hopefully good ways. But like until then, it's like it is really like having like there's no bank, right? Like if you have a bunch of money, there are political consultants you can hire to convert that into access. You can't. We don't really know how outrage works yet. So I would say that there are like two problems. Um, like I was thinking about this in the context of AOC, Alessia Ocasio Cortez, I believe is how you pronounce her name. Like she has a big media presence, but like in terms of the structures of like power, she's got like no power, right? She's like a super, like like ultra junior, Democrat representative, right? Like she's got no juice, no seniority, no power. She has tons of like social media presence and media coverage and important friends, right? But like in the actual system, she has no power, and that's something that like I think that's the thing that I feel frustrated about when I look at like the way people approach Twitter or the idea that you like something. It's not to say that it's stupid because I realize it's not stupid. It's just to say, well, that doesn't convert into this other thing, and this other currency is actually what you need to actually get shit to happen. Like it's great if you have euros because you can go take it to Wells Fargo and get it converted into dollars, and then you can buy things with dollars. It's unclear how like outrage or social media presence converts yet because it doesn't necessarily clearly convert into votes, and it certainly doesn't convert into long-term willingness and influence to campaign for something. Outrage, like anger, very short. I mean, have you ever been angry? I mean, I've never been because I'm perfect. But hypothetically, the times when I've been angry, it's been a big burst of emotion, and then I'm usually regretted afterwards. Sometimes I don't, but a lot of times I do. And hypothetically. And and the thing is, like, if you want to actually like change something, like it's not like you flash pasteurize society, right? Like, it's a nice little cook that you set for a while, um, and outrage doesn't have the ability to it doesn't necessarily right now. It's got two drawbacks. The first is it doesn't know how to convert itself into something else that's more useful, and second, it doesn't know how to it doesn't know how to sustain itself for a long campaign. I remember when I worked at a nonprofit, the executive director went to DC for a conference, and she came back, and one of the things she talked about that really struck her, and it sticks with me, is she heard from people who had been working on gay marriage, legalizing gay marriage for 30 years. That means they started in the freaking 80s. I mean, the 80s, what did people think about gay people? Thought a lot of terrible things. Mostly like, hey, these guys are like rats. They carry diseases, and we're scared of them, and they're gonna undo our society, like the Black Plague. Like that's sort of the attitude, right? Like very homophobic, very fear-based, very disease, AIDS, HIV, all that kind of stuff based. The drugs associated with deviant behavior and the destruction of the family, just all these things, right? And those are people who decided at that point in time, they decided, oh, this is going to be our issue, right? And they've worked on this issue for 30 years through ups and downs, and now they're sitting pretty. But it took 30 years of dedication on their part to get there. And it took time to focus on something and waiting for the rest of civil society and the political system and eventually politicians to catch up to what they believed. And that's outrage cannot sustain that. I'm not even sure love can sustain that. I think the only thing that can sustain that is a steady steady monthly donations or a foundation that gives you a nice little like cash flow every year for your annual operating budget. It takes a lot to sustain a political movement that actually is going to really change society. And I mean, in some ways, social media is a version of that, but um, it just takes time. And also, there's no guarantees that when you convert, usually it's in the conversion that a lot of corruption happens. And self interest and self dealing occurs, right? When you're converting from people power into political power, usually there are people who come along and they take their cut. And I don't expect that when people convert social media power, it's going to be any different. We might be disappointed with that. It might make us uncomfortable. And when I say converting, like I think AOC is like a really interesting example because basically she has tons of social media power, and she could actually, if she plays her cards right, she could actually have a really great political career. There's a part of me that's like, hey, I wants to dismiss AOC and be like, this is stupid. She's gonna be a flash in the pan. And then there's another aspect of me like, oh no, she might be the first female president. Who the fuck knows, right? And I would say the road to her becoming the first female president probably runs along the lines of she figures out how to convert her power into the other kind of power. And how would AOC do that? I'm not in politics. I've never worked as a legislative staffer or in legislation, but I have worked as a lobbyist. And what I do know is like how would AOC convert what she has into like the kind of power say Nancy Pelosi has. Well, first of all, I mean, if she is popular, right, she can fundraise for herself. She can run for a higher level office. Those are the two obvious ways that she converts support for her and outrage on her behalf into more power. There's another possibility, and this is where it starts to get like savvy. This is where I really think about the magic of conversion happening, and that would be if she starts, say, she has this huge social media following on Instagram and Twitter. If she started, say, she started um, giving using her social media as a platform for other elected officials. Say she used one of the ways she probably could use her platform in a very creative way is if she used her popularity to extend support to campaigns of other Democrats she believes in. That would actually be a really interesting way for her to shape the Democratic Party, not by advancing herself, but by using her popularity to shine a light on other politicians who she may feel similarly, sympathies with, and then getting them elected and getting them to get other Democrats out of office, and then she caucuses with those people and builds a power base, right? She maybe makes social media videos and she invites other representatives or senators to appear on it. Uh, she helps fundraise and puts money in other people's coffers. And then when the time comes, she calls it in and they'll give her endorsements. That's how you convert people power into, you would say institutional, structural power in politics. And, I think the Tony Blair, the Mugabe helicopter thing is sort of the story of that. I think the Kavanaugh and the Federalist Society is the story of that. And I think Trump is the story of that. And that's the thing. A lot of it's like if you ask marketing people, right? Like they talk about like internet marketers, they talk about conversion rates, right, or engagement. They talk about these terms, and it's funny because they sound like such hack terms, and they sound so cynical, but it's the truth, right? Like you got to figure out okay, I've got people's eyeballs. How do I now get their wallets, right? Like, or I've got these people's eyeballs. How do I get them on my email list? I've got these people's whatever. How do I get the next thing that I actually need from them and turn it into the next thing so I can keep, succeeding. I think that's basically like that's the story of a lot of this stuff. To me. Um, and yeah, how do you convert? Because I think that's going to be the ability to convert is going to be the story of like the 21st century, to put it lightly. And I don't know. I'm terrible at converting. One guy was like, "Hey, you should set up an email list and like start emailing people with like your thoughts about things." And I was just like, "Nah, I'm not going to do that." And a couple of years go by, and I'm like, "Oh man, maybe I should have done that because maybe that is what you need to do." Look at Kevin Hart, right? Like the reason he's a big comic was because he toured the country and collected a bunch of people's emails and contact information, and that allowed him to go after bigger and bigger things at different times. Uh, so I don't know. Just a thought. Just a thought about stuff. Just a thought about stuff. Hey. But yeah, I don't know. Just something to consider. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Have fun. Stay in school. Keep smiling. I'll talk to you later. Bye.